What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I have a couple of things planned. Up front, the end goal is to get the bike running, just have the fuel tank on, none of the silliness that I did before, but actually have it run for a few minutes and get to inspect some of the issues. So a couple of things I'll have to do today. First thing is going to be that oil change I keep promising myself I'll be doing. Then I'm going to reinstall the fuel tank pump again, but this time hopefully for good. And by the end of it, we should be plugging it all up and seeing how it runs. A lot of this stuff I'm going to probably fast forward because we've seen it all before at this point, right? So I'm not going to show you all how to do an oil change. I think it would be patronizing. Yeah, so let's get to it. Not even fucking close. Close. Jesus. Never in all my years have I had confusion on where the drain plug is on a vehicle. And yet I just got the hell confused out of me because I've done oil on these things on Ducati motors before, and the bolt is like, it's like good 20 millimeters. So I'm gonna have to go to the store and get something. I think it's some aftermarket drain plug, which is insane to me. I have to be sure to watch out for this one, make sure that there's a magnet on it too. That could be a problem. So I'm gonna have to shut the video off. I'm gonna check real quick and then go to the store and buy a tool to remove the oil plug. Ridiculous. Okay, well, I went to the store, got a 14 millimeter. I think I said 13 in the video, and I rechecked it. It's 14 millimeter. So now we can continue with the project. Ridiculous. Ooh, that's very clean oil. That's a really good sign. And I'm not seeing any flakes, no metal. And cap is nice and clean, which is one of the things I should be paranoid about. We'll see how the trap looks. But this is a good sign. I might not have inherited as rough a bike as I feared. Make sure this thing is magnetic. So these Allen keys are steel, and there's a bit of a grab on my magnetic light, no grab on the oil plug. So this is some aftermarket bullshit that's not going to catch the metal flakes. That's not good. I mean, it's not bad, it's just not good. Just means that, you know, one safety net is not in place, so that'll have something we'll have to replace, but I don't know if I'm going to do it now or if I'm just going to wait. So some of you may recognize this as the oil pre-filter, the oil pickup filter. This is the plug that comes out, and that's the empty plug itself. Now you may notice that the filter is not on. It's because it's in there. I don't think I'm going to be able to show it on the camera, but I can just barely see it.
I don't feel like splitting the crankcase over a stupid little filter. I'm not even sure. I've never pulled one of these before. I don't know. I don't think the monster I had one. So I haven't actually seen one out. I think the thing is plastic. So this isn't working. I'm thinking like a hook or something in there, but yeah, I could use some help. Well, you can just barely see that little freaking bastard in there. It's really stuck. I'm working it though. This is just supposed to be an easy oil change. Good news, everyone. We will not have to split the cases tonight to pull this piece of shit out. Now, I gotta go and check to see if anyone local has one or if I have to order it. Thank God for Burt's. Oh yeah. Pure sexy right there. They got a V4 now. God, look at that thing. .959's not bad either. This is amazing. And just about the most beautiful Panigale I've ever seen. So an update. I don't know how much I captured because my camera, of course, had a knocked off when I was trying to film earlier. So I was going to just do an oil change and I was going to fast forward through the oil change. But the lesson learned today is that nothing with this bike will ever just be an oil change. It will always be something more. In case you guys don't know what this is a oil screen or oil pre-filter. I've heard it phrased a couple different ways, but this is just an extra filter before the oil. I think it goes before the oil goes into the filter. I'm not actually sure on the order, but this is my dad and I jokingly called it a boulder catcher, right? So it's just to get the thickest of the thick stuff, to catch the thickest stuff before before the oil hits the actual filter. You can probably guess which one came out of the bike. So anyway, I went to pull this out. Just about every publication I've read, to include the Haynes, which is just off the out of view here on the camera, said, "Hey, pull this thing out and make sure that you give it a look over, see how it looks. It's a good catch-all to see, the general health of your bike." So I went to pull it, and what I pulled was just this much. This is all that came out. So I looked in the bike and I went, man, what the hell? And it took me a few minutes. I started, kind of wondering maybe there's more to it. And then of course I looked at that lip there. Let's see, I'm going to refocus this. So you can see the lip there, that's obviously something supposed to be attached to it. So I started looking inside the bike, and what I ended up seeing was this bit rattling around inside the bike. But I could barely see it. I wasn't even sure what I was looking at. So it took about 2 hours worth of fishing to get this thing out. The filter itself, I had to cut, so I'll pull it in here so you guys can see really well. The filter was, like I said, it was lodged inside the crankcase, and there was no getting it out. So what I ended up doing, I was able to get a screwdriver on the lip. So like I said, I could barely see it. So in order to get it out of there, I had to take a screwdriver and stick it inside the hole. And I was able to push on the edge there, just like this, and get it to go up so that I could see in the hole. You can see I ended up having to clip it a couple spots so that I could pull it out through the hole, because that plastic end piece there as it was just too big. And I didn't have any way of extracting it. It's just about the size of the hole. So this was about 2 hours of swearing and frustration. And I gotta tell you, when I saw this little bastard sitting in there, I was having a moment of deep reflection. How much did I really want to pursue this project? So I've gone through now and made sure there's nothing left of it inside the bike. And I went to my favorite place, Burt's, which I may have some clips of, to pick up a new one. It turns out they only had one left in stock, which was the second time that's happened. So I ended up with a brand new one here, or at least, new old stock kind of thing. I think it's been sitting at Burt's for 20 years, but it's a good thing too. I was thinking, had it not come off, the fact that bit came off says that it was not good, because this is really solid. I don't want to twist it too much, but this is solidly mounted on there. So there's a fresh brand new one ready to go in the bike. Again, I'm going to go ahead and reassemble. I don't know how close I'll get to actually starting the bike today because of this nonsense. So, but we'll go ahead and proceed as we were. I'll reassemble it, put the new filter on, put new oil in it, and see how I'm feeling from there. So a word on oil real quick. This is my first 4-valve Ducati motor, but I've had two 2-valve Ducati motors, and the expensive oil, you got to do it. It may appear that I'm sponsored by Shell, but I'm not. I mean, I think AGIP stuff works okay, but I use the expensive Shell stuff. This is actually not exactly a weight prescribed. Well, I think it was in one of the other manuals. I've got like 3 different types of manuals for this thing, but it's a slightly off weight. But this was basically the local motorcycle shop that I have had a stand and said, hey, if you've got a Ducati, this is the stuff you should be putting on your bike right now. If you look at it, it even says Ducati on the bottle, right? So there's a lot of debate. I'm not qualified to talk about, because it's a wet clutch versus it's a dry clutch and all that different nonsense. Briefly, you're supposed to use motorcycle-specific oil on most bikes because of the additives in a wet clutch system, which a Ducati doesn't have. The problem that I've found is has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with synthetic versus non-synthetic or any of that crap. What I found is when I ran cheap oil on the bike, I missed shifts. Now, I was on, again, my Desmo Due engines, so those are 2 different monsters. That was both a wet clutch monster, S2R, and a dry clutch monster, 900. Both of them had the same damn problem. Never dealt with this one, but my previous experience with Ducati says put the oil that's recommended by the manufacturer, and they're pretty meticulous. I used to think it was one of those like, oh, we got a sponsor thing with Shell, and again, I had a bad experience with cheaper. I don't mean like dollar store stuff, but like motorcycle, just regular 4-stroke motorcycle oil. It didn't go well. The bike would miss shifts. It would hit false neutrals. As soon as I switched the oil back to the Shell stuff, effectively, making my oil change more expensive. But as soon as that happened, the bike was behaving again. So anyway, Shell stuff is where I'm going with. I would recommend it. It's a little bit different color than what came out of there. Not too far off though. 2. What the fuck, man? It's never just a fucking oil change. So real quick, what that was I had not completely torqued down that same damn part, the oil screen, not the filter, the screen. So I was tightening it. It's a little bit off. It was going in really tight, and I didn't trust my instincts told me to stop torquing. So I just didn't torque it down all the way. It's got one of those crush washer things, so I think it just needed a little more oomph, and it took longer than I thought it would. So when I was first working on it, I did not torque it all the way. I only went to like 20 foot-pounds, and it calls for about 31. I just stopped filling there. I noticed a drip, and I retorqued it down to torqued it all the way down to 31, and that stopped the drip. So just have to keep an eye on it. I reused the washer because I didn't have a spare. A lot of times they're supposed to be good to reuse. I always replace them when I can. This one I just didn't have a spare, so I decided not to, and kind of bit me. So it just dripped a little bit, so it's all right. I'm going to keep filling. All right, I'm going to take a break here, clean up what I've done, let the oil settle. We'll see what the level's looking like once I've cleaned up. So I'll give it a few minutes. You know, normally an oil change you would want to run it, then with the warm oil, just run it for a few minutes. Let the oil warm up so that it's a little bit more runny, and then do it. But I can't do it here. So normally I would change the oil and then immediately start the bike and let it run and then top it up. But again, I can't do it tonight. So this video may need to pick it back up tomorrow. I'm out of daylight, and when I started, I wanted to start it in daylight. So at most, I might do the reinstallation of the fuel pump and get it ready for tomorrow. But I'm pretty much done for the day. It took all day to just do an oil change. So you never know with one of these things. It's never just an oil change, apparently. So, I mean, that's life with the 20-year-old motorcycle. Any 20-year-old motorcycle is going to be like that. So, yeah, so I'll press pause and pick it back up here in a minute. All right, I came back out on the next day, and this is what I find. So frustrating. I know where it's coming from. It's coming from that oil plug, but I'm stuck. So I guess I'm going to have to take I don't know, I could maybe try to reuse oil and catch it, but this is really frustrating to find. I'll have to replace that damn washer. I'm sure that's what's causing the problem. And, as always, it's never just an oil change with this damn bike. So I'm trying to put together the fuel pump, and it's a little bit more confusing than I expected. The fuel pump has all these different hoses. I think I got it together okay, but there was a few concerning things, making sure that I have these wires plugged in the correct order, and then there's two hoses. One I already figured out where, and this one I'm pretty sure I got it set, but it's just a matter of just kind of making it all fit together. It's just kind of a headache. I thought I'd kind of share. It's kind of funny how frustrating it was. So. Okay, this is one of the parts I was a little bit more nervous about. I have this gasket put on. I only have the one, so if I screw it up, it's on me. It's pretty robust, but I don't want to mess the gasket up. So Obviously, this looks like a pretty dangerous point. Still got some crap on the tank. I should probably pause, scratch that off. So I'm going to pause it, and some of the paper towel dried off on there. Anyway, like I said, this is one of the points I'm more nervous about. I put this seal on. I only have the one, so if I screw it up, it's on me. I was really gentle in putting it on. I've cleaned off the meeting surface there pretty thoroughly, so I'm just going to attach these hoses, which are kind of a pain in the ass, and then we'll go ahead and insert the fuel pump back in. Hopefully it goes in. I'm going to put a thin layer of oil on this surface just to help it sit a little bit better, and then once that's good, I'm basically ready to hook the bike up and see if it runs. So, all right, here, bottoms up. Here goes nothing, right? Okay, Christ, that was a way bigger pain in the ass than I thought it was. All I had to do just now was get those hoses that run from the top of the filler neck all the way to the bottom to the fuel flange, and they did not want to go in. That was a massive pain in the ass. But I'm finally ready to reinstall the fuel pump, so you can see the sky even. It's been like an hour of me fussing with those hoses. So, okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of oil around the lip here, just to kind of help it go in a little bit easier, because I really don't want to wail on this. Wail on the seal if I can avoid not doing that. And as always, now that I'm messy, I remember I should wear gloves, but oh well. All right. Okay, the way I plan on setting this up again today is at first I'm going to do this kind of in a, again, like a rednecky kind of way. I'm going to, again, pull the airbox off and run it without the airbox on, just so I can ensure that everything that I've put in is sealed properly, that there's no fuel leaks. Obviously, if there's fuel leaking and spraying all over a bunch of hot engine components, there's a danger of fire. So I'm going to ensure that that does not happen by, again, first running it in that Mickey Mouse redneck style that I've been doing, where, well, it's not going to be quite as silly as last time with the fuel tank completely off, but I'm going to have the fuel tank somehow propped up and airbox removed so I can see all those intake components. Things first. Fuel pump runs. All right. So that's the forward. So I'm not doing it in a coffee cup this time. Fuck, man. like everything else on this freaking project, I didn't go to a plan. So it's leaking from the gasket that I've been stressing out on, that I tried so hard to make work. Bit frustrated. This is just like the never-ending story. It's like nothing just in and out, right? Everything has to be more complicated than it should be. So what I'm gonna have to do is take that flange out, get rid of this gas, and then I don't know, I'll have to use some kind of seal, like make a gasket or something. But this is frustrating. This should have just gone, and it just didn't. So I was pretty disappointed earlier that the fuel tank that the fuel tank was leaking, and that's a bit of an understatement. I'm going to cut out a lot of the swearing I did, but sometimes it's good to just walk away from a project for a few minutes, regain your composure, and then go back after it. So I don't know how much more time I have tonight. As you can see, a lot of time passed. It's dark out. So yeah, so I got other stuff to do. So I'm probably going to clean up. I might work on it a little bit. So what I did do, though, I've pulled the fuel pump out, and what will need to happen now, I looked at the surface around the flange. It's behind, you can see it behind me there, but that hole where the flange goes in, it wasn't perfectly clean. It didn't look too bad when I took a look at it, but I didn't give it enough of a clear look. I was looking more at the flange itself, and I didn't think as closely at looking at the hole, though I considered it. I noticed that there's a few little spots there's like gunk from the sealant that was used before, and or from whatever was there. And there was a few spots of the lining stuff had gotten on the lip that I just didn't notice, because they're really faint. But my guess is those are what's probably contributing, because they're right about where the seal would sit. So what will need to happen, which I may or may not videotape, is I'm going to clean up that seal. And once that seal, I'm going to need to clean up that surface. And once that surface is cleaner, I'm going to try to reinstall the fuel pump again. One of the things I'm going to do this time, I went to our local Pep Boys, and I bought some stuff that's it's gasket maker, and I'm just going to apply a coat around on a couple strategic spots when I insert it in there, and let it sit that way. I think that's just how it's going to have to be. When I pulled it out, I described that there was that electrical tape stuff, electrical tape wrapped around duct tape, and that's how it was in. But there was also some stuff that was still tacky, which I thought when I first looked at it, I thought might have been, I don't know, like just gooey electrical tape. But I had a little bit of stuff sitting on the table still, and because it had fallen next to the bike when I pulled the pump out originally, and looking at it, I think it might have been some sealant compound as well. So someone's probably had this issue before. Again, it's one of those issues of I don't know the history of the vehicle, and so I don't know. There's a lot missing. So there's no one is here to say, hey, this is what happened with the bike. I don't have any paperwork with it. I don't have any. I don't have the documentation, so I have no idea what the history is of this thing. So yeah, so I'll clean it up. I'll use that non-permanent gasket maker stuff. It's fuel resistant. That's why I had to go to Pep Boys and couldn't just go up the street to AutoZone. Pep Boys is a bit of a drive for me, but I went and got some of that stuff. I'll apply it next time, and then it's just gonna be another day. I'm kind of intent on starting this thing during the daylight because, again, I'm doing this filming project, and which I'm enjoying almost as much as working on the bike. So since I am doing this filming project with it, I want to have good daylight because I want to capture the moment. I can run it and then reassemble it. So we'll wait. We'll wait until it's daylight, and then we'll have better footage. Hopefully next time, assuming that this goes right, it shouldn't be too much. I mean, there could always be another leak that springs up, but I'm hopeful that won't happen this next time. I think we're going to win eventually. And, like I said, I was really disheartened earlier to see that this went just like, every day this week, it was just like, every time I turn around, it was just, hey, look, something else. And most of this project's been this way, and that's kind of what you accept when you buy a 25-year-old motorcycle that with sketchy history. But one of these days I'd sure like to just dig in here and not have a screw fall off in a spot where I can't reach, or something ridiculous where it's just like, oh look, I have to make a project out of a simple fastener, and there's stuff I'm not even adding to the footage where screws are stripped, not by me. Perfect example, again, didn't videotape it, but last night when I was trying to put the fuel pump in last night, one of the screws was just mangled. There's like 3 screws that sit on top of the fuel flange that bolted in, and one of the screw and the hole, the threads inside the tank were just doo-doo. So I used my I have a tap and die kit, and I didn't really like re-tap it, but I just cleaned up the threads by running the same size in there so that I could actually attach it. Stuff like that gets old. But we're not too far. Once this goes on, assuming, well, I'm gonna just for security's sake, I'm going to assume the worst. But once I have the bike running regularly, the next thing that needs to happen in order for me to have a viable motorcycle, something I could actually ride, is I just have to pull one of the forks off. There's only one leaking oil. That's, in fact, you can see in the camera there, that's why there's a towel wrapped around that one fork leg. It's probably dry by this point. But that fork leg is leaking oil. Once that's done, we're good. So, so it's not that bad. So once this is all put together, it's, it'll be I could ride it around the block. I could ride it up the road. Once I get the plates sorted, the registration is on non-op because I was smart. That was one of the best decisions I made because this thing is not going to be rolling for a little bit. But like I said, once that's done, then I have a viable, safe, secure motorcycle, and then from there I can do some of the other things before I ride it regularly. One of the more important things that I want to do is a belt change. Belts and valve inspection. So all of that, I kind of laugh at myself right now thinking, oh man, you couldn't even get a freaking oil change done, and then you're going to go into the valves. But hey, it needs to happen, and I'm not paying a mechanic, $800 is what they charge. I would know because I've had a service done on a Monster out here, and the Monster only had 4 valves to look at. This has 8 valves to look at, 4 per cylinder. So knowing that, other than the fact that I'm El Cheapo Grande, other than that, that's part of the experience. But anyway, those are not unreachable. Those are not unreachable goals. So, feeling better than I did when I saw all that fuel gushing out of the tank now. I was able to walk away for a bit and I drank some, so feeling better. Yeah, so here's looking up. Pause. So I'm closing out this log for the night. Thanks as always for watching. If you guys are enjoying this, I am enjoying making the videos and I am enjoying working the bike. But if you guys are enjoying it, I'll do the usual YouTube admonishment of
like, comment, subscribe, all of that crap, right? I get it. I don't have any delusions of grandeur, but I am enjoying that people are watching. There's a few hundred people I think have seen, like 200 people at this scene. At this point, it's not that big a number, but it's cool. People have watched the videos and spent time. So, so that's that's a bit of a thrill. So, like I said, if you do have a moment, hit the like button and all that. Put a comment. Just, So thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.